Happy Sunday, everybody. And it's an especially happy Sunday for me because, as you can see, I am not here by myself today. So, check out the sign on my fridge. Now you have a better idea what's going on here today. So, if you weren't here the last time my mom was here, let me introduce you. This is my mom, Kay. And I have had cream in my coffee this morning. Can you tell? So we've been doing something new for my mom. We've had sugar-free Da Vinci hazelnut syrup in our coffee with a little bit of whipping cream. And one of the things that I love most about keto is that whipping cream is keto food. Who knew? Okay, so we're going to do a few things today because we're going to do an entire brunch. So stick around. You're going to want to be part of this. And grab your pen, grab a piece of paper. You're going to want to write down these recipes. Now, one of the things that I did before we got here was I made a plate of TSL Organics breakfast sausage patties. You can make them as big or as small as you want, but the seasoning mix, you have to get hold of me if you want it. So that's the secret sauce in our brunch recipe. Now, this would take way longer than we have together if we did everything from scratch. So we are not going to do everything from scratch. Now this, which you cannot see, you want to see it? Do you? Huh? Okay, this is a pot. I know you knew that already. Of steamed cauliflower. Now you can do the entire head of cauliflower if you want it to look beautiful when you set it on the table. This cauliflower I had in the sink for a minute, or in the fridge for a minute. So it had a few spots that needed to be trimmed off. It wasn't going to be a beautiful head of cauliflower, so I trimmed it up. Cauliflower is one of the most forgiving vegetables you can use. And I put it in a steamer basket and steamed it for about 10 minutes. And now it is lovely and beautiful. And so, Mom, if you could put this in that bowl. Now this, just so you guys are aware, this is not my recipe that we're doing this morning. This is a recipe that I got from my mom.
And I have to thank my friend Carol for it because that's where I got it.
Well, Carol gets a great big huge thank you from me too because this is absolutely delicious. Now, a while back, Costco was carrying Kerrygold. Kerrygold? Yeah. Organic butter right from Ireland. I was watching a thing the other day, somewhere, I don't remember where, and it said all butter in Ireland is organic. They don't feed their cattle grain. They don't feed their cattle corn. Their cattle graze. So for whatever reason, they stopped carrying that. And they never did carry it in Canada. But I was lucky enough to have a friend bring me some from the States. But they have started carrying a Kirkland brand of organic butter. So today, we're going to try it out. Okay. Now, the very first thing that we are going to be adding to, pardon me, adding to this pot is half a cup of butter. So half a cup is 112 grams. Not wasting that for sure. Now it doesn't really matter, I suppose, whether this goes in first or last, but we're going to put the other ingredients in on top of it, and then we are just going to melt it on the stove until everything is incorporated, and it's that easy, folks. Now, I am being very careful because this knife is sharp. It is not as sharp as my knives usually are, but it's still very sharp. Okay, there. Now we have a spoon for it as well. Okay, so that is going to get put away for later. Now, into this, gotta have one of these. Into this pot, we need some mustard. Now this is organic. It's French's organic mustard. You can get it at any grocery store in Canada. And how much mustard do we need, Mom?
I never remember. I always have to look. 2 teaspoons.
2 teaspoons, okay. 2 teaspoons it is. There is 1 teaspoon. And there is 2 teaspoons. There. That's why I cook and I'm not a drummer. Just so you know. Okay. Now, 3/4 of a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. Now, if you've been doing keto for any amount of time, you probably know that Worcestershire sauce is not keto unless you make it yourself. Well, okay, I guess we're just going to pour this in here. So this is 1 teaspoon. So I'm just going to make it not quite full. So this keeps for a long time in your fridge. And it's a fairly easy recipe to make. Maybe one of these days on a line I'll have to do keto Worcestershire sauce.
That would be good.
Okay, and then 1/4 of a teaspoon of pepper. Now, what kind of pepper do you use when you make it at home?
Usually black.
Black pepper?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to use white pepper today only because I'm anxious for you to taste the difference and tell me what you think. And when you're making this to display for guests, white pepper doesn't show up as much. So if you want that black fleck in there as part of the aesthetic, that's awesome. If you don't, that's okay too. Okay, now 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, and this is Redmond's real salt. So only salt you're ever going to find in my house. Okay, and a dash of cayenne pepper. That's a little bit surprising to me that there's this much. How much is a dash?
1/8 of a teaspoon.
1/8 of a teaspoon, absolutely. Okay.
Sounds so smart. Nobody knows that I just learned that about half an hour ago.
Okay. Can I get you to come and stir this?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Now, the water that we have in here that we used for our cauliflower, we're not going to use it again because cauliflower has different chemicals. And the reason I'm talking about not using it again is because the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to do some poached eggs. So I'm just going to get rid of this and we're going to start on getting our poached eggs ready. Now, poached eggs are something that you can do the day before. So if you are having a group over and you want poached eggs for the group for your brunch or breakfast or whatever it is you're doing, you can do it the day before, and the next morning you hardly have anything left to do. So that's a good thing. All you need is a frying pan, 2 tablespoons of vinegar, and the vinegar is going to help the eggs not go everywhere in the pan. And then we're going to get some water. Okay, so that looks like it is done.
It is done.
Okay, good deal. Well, we'll bring that over here. And if you would like to pour that on the cauliflower and mix it, I will get some water for... I'll get some water for our poached eggs.
This is just so easy. And the deviled cauliflower is done.
And when you pour it over a whole head of cauliflower, it is really quite lovely. And you still see the red flecks and the white flecks. They're not quite as pronounced. Okay, now we're going to turn this on 10. And we're going to let that heat up. And while that's heating up, we are going to strain our raw eggs. When was the last time you strained raw eggs, Mom?
I would say never.
Well, today is an awesome day for lots of firsts then. Okay. Now 1 egg at a time, and then we are just going to put those eggs in here until this is ready. Now the reason that we're straining these is because when you buy eggs in the grocery store, they are never that day fresh. If they were, we wouldn't need to worry about this. And when you're doing this for any other recipe, you don't need to worry so much about it. But when you're doing poached eggs, now these ones are quite fresh. I'm impressed. When you're doing poached eggs, we may not have a whole lot here to, whoops. You don't want the watery bits of the, yeah, there's a little bit coming out of that. You can, now I don't know whether you guys will be able to see this on camera, but the part that comes through your strainer, and you want a really fine sieve for this so that only the watery bits come through. And that way, they don't kind of go everywhere in your pan.
So do you ever strain the eggs for any other recipe than anything else but poached eggs?
Only poached eggs. Because there isn't another recipe. If you're dropping an egg in water to cook it, this matters. Because if you've ever seen poached eggs where you drop the egg in and there's all kinds of stringy bits all over the place, that's what we're straining out.
Okay.
Okay, now, how many eggs would you like, Mama?
Oh, I think 2 is a good number.
Okay, 2 it is. Now, our water is almost ready, and the other thing with poached eggs is you don't want your water boiling. Bring it up to a boil and then turn it right down, because the process of boiling is also going to make your eggs stringy. Okay. So you want it really hot but not boiling.
Okay. So that has just tiny little bubbles coming up from the bottom.
Yeah, we're going to let the bubbles get a little more aggressive than that, but not a whole lot more. And then, now this, when you do this, you can either, now you see how much we've strained out it now? Maybe you can't see. I don't know. This camera does not show white on white very well. But you can either, if you've got some egg whites in the fridge that you've saved for something else, add this to it. You don't need to waste it. I don't right now, so this is just going to get rinsed down the sink. Okay, now this is getting just about where we want it to be. So I'm going to turn this down to about 3. And if you find that at 3, it still boils. Okay, so then we're just going to
back
put it
in the fridge.
No, we'll just leave those out for right now because, there we go. And look at, we've got a little bit of stringiness happening there and a little bit there, but not lots. And that's because we strained the eggs first.
Right.
And even though they're raw, I can pick them up and just drag out just the eggs. And we still have a little bit in the bowl that was not thick enough to come out nicely with the eggs. Okay. So that will also go down the drain. Now we're just going to leave these for a little bit. Now this bowl, can I get you right behind you? There is an ice machine and the scoop is right at the back. Can you grab me some ice out of there? Now one of the things about eggs when you are poaching them is you can do them until they are almost cooked. So you want the whites to be almost as firm as you want them. We're going to need this bowl about half full. Okay. You want the whites almost as firm as they need to be when they're served, but not quite. And if you like your eggs soft, then they're going to be really soft. If you like them hard, they're still going to be soft when you take them out, because now I didn't have quite enough water in here. And you can tell because a couple of these eggs are not building that white No, you can't really see this. Okay, well, we're just going to turn this a wee bit. Huh. Getting this camera angle correct is always a challenge. Okay, so you can see that these eggs are getting white on top. That white on the top is going to, okay, now if you could get some water, just cold water out of the cooler and put it in there. We're going to cook these until they are almost as done as we need them to be, and then we're going to put them immediately into an ice bath. When you put something in an ice bath, it arrests the cooking process immediately. So,
How much water? Do you want to cover the ice?
pretty close, yeah. Now, one of the things that you have to remember when you're dropping the eggs in this water is that if the water isn't hot enough, the eggs are going to sink to the bottom and they're going to stick just a wee bit. And this is the first one that I put in. So this one did stick just a tiny bit. There we go. Because we don't need these to be fried eggs. We want them to be poached eggs. So I'm just going to let them get a little bit harder. Now, when we take these out of here, the other thing that you can do, either before or after they go in the ice bath, a little easier after because they're cooled, you can just trim all of the icky bits off so that when you put your hot eggs, after you put them back in hot water to heat them up, it's going to finish the cooking process so that they're where you want them, and it's also going to make them look beautiful. When you set them on a plate, they're going to be beautiful little poached eggs. So whether you're doing something like we are today where you're just having the eggs, or you're doing eggs Benedict, which can also be keto. The only thing about eggs Benedict that isn't keto,
Sugar, probably.
well, yeah, you're right. A lot of hollandaise sauce, most restaurants will buy hollandaise sauce in a bag, and anytime you're buying prepared food, it's going to have sugar in it, almost always. But no, actually it's the bun. Eggs Benedict is on an English muffin. So that's the only thing, if you make it at home, that's the only thing that you have to change. So if you make keto bread, you can do eggs Benedict. But hollandaise sauce is butter and lemon juice.
Okay.
Easy, easy. Okay, now these are almost where we want them. Now you can also, because I didn't have the water quite deep enough, so I'm just going to spoon a little bit of water over this. And you can see that that's making that yolk nice and white.
So you want the yellow basically to disappear?
You do, and the reason that you do is because if the yellow hasn't disappeared, that little film of yolk that's on it is not as strong as when it's cooked.
Okay, so it's more likely to break.
Yeah. So when we take this out and put it in the ice bath, it's definitely going to be way more delicate and much more likely to break. Now, the other thing that is really handy to have is a spider. And your spider is perfect for I don't know why they call these spiders.
I was just going to say I don't like spiders in my house, especially not in my kitchen.
Yeah, well, I hear you there. Okay, now check this out. We're just going to get this on our spoon. Now, you definitely want a spoon with holes, not slots, because this can still break. And we're just going to put it right into our ice bath. And it's going to immediately stop it from cooking. Now, I like my eggs hard. How do you want your eggs done, Mom?
Medium.
Medium?
Not really hard, but...
Well, and that is the nice part about this. You can do 2 or 3 dozen eggs or 10 dozen eggs, doesn't matter, because when you go to cook them for your event, you can just put them into a pot of hot water and heat them up for a couple of minutes. And you can just pull this stringy bit off of here. Okay. Now these two have been getting to know each other. They're stuck together. Yeah, it is just that easy. And after they're cold, you can put them in a container in the fridge, lay them out on a platter, however you want to do it. They're going to be a little bit wet, so they're not going to stick to your platter. Okay, there we go.
Interesting.
Now, we're going to turn that off for a minute. And the first one that went in here, yes, I washed my hands. The first one that went in here, I'm going to take out first. Oh, and I just broke one. That would be my egg. Now, I'm going to get that out of here real quick because I don't want to lose all of that yolk. But now you can see what I mean when I say the top of that yolk is very delicate. Could you hand me my plate, Mom? I'm just going to put this on there. Okay. Well, darn it. That is my favorite part of the egg. But you can see that you can take them out. Okay, now you can tell that this is the bottom of the egg because it's a little bit pitted. So we're just going to turn it over. And look at how beautiful it is.
Very nice.
And if there are little stringy bits, and this has a little bit on it, you can just trim that off. And if you want your eggs to be, this one has a little bit of extra white on it. So if you want them to be absolutely aesthetically perfect, you can trim that off so that it is. Now this is definitely a soft egg, you can tell. Oh, you could tell if I was holding it up a little bit higher. The yolk is jiggly on this one. So what we're going to do with this, because I know that this egg needs to be medium. Now this can go in the fridge for a day or two. And I'm just going to pop it back in this water until it is medium. Now this one went in upside down as well. So you can see where I'm not going to worry about trimming it for me. How about for you?
No.
Not so much? Okay. So we're just going to pop them back in this water and let those ones get to a medium. And I'm going to wait a little bit on mine because I like mine soft. So we're just going to leave that. And then, now, if you were to put that in a bowl like that, would you mix it before you served it or just let people mix it when it was at the table?
I poured it over. I wouldn't mix it. I would just leave it.
Now, let's turn this back so you can see what we're talking about here. Now, this is the cauliflower made with keto Worcestershire sauce and TSL organic spices.
So I have not had keto Worcester sauce at my house. So I just leave it out, and it is good without it too.
Okay.
So if you don't have any keto Worcestershire sauce, that's fine.
Okay. Now, do you want to try it with the Worcestershire sauce and tell me what the difference is?
Yes.
And just so you know, this is good hot, this is good cold, this is good straight out of the fridge. It's just good. That's as easy as that is. Now, I am going to
That is absolutely delicious.
take my other egg. Oh, come on. Okay, now we need to keep these separated. Now, if you have any kind of a heated chafing dish on your table, you can put the eggs in there and they'll continue to cook if it's warm, but you can put them in ahead of time, and by the time everybody gets there, if you've got a slotted spoon at that point will work. They can just take their eggs out and go that way, or you can serve them on a platter or whatever you like. And the water is more clear if you don't break the yolk in it, like I did with that one. So there we go. That is one plate with a broken yolk. You know, I don't know that I have ever cooked an entire batch of eggs without breaking a yolk more than a handful of times. It's just one of those things. And when this is ready to come out of whatever pan you have it in, it only takes a few seconds in there to heat it up again. A minute, maybe two. And this is the soft one. I wanted to get that out of there first so that it stayed soft. I think those are pretty close to medium.
I think they're fine.
Now the one thing that you don't do with poached eggs is add salt and pepper because you just wash it off if you do. Okay, so make sure that before you put this on your plate, you let the water drip off. You don't need a whole bunch of watery goop on your plate. There we go. Now,
That looks awesome.
we have 2 eggs. Now, let's just get this handle out of the way. That is one of my biggest pet peeves, and I see it so often. People will be cooking something and they've got the handle sticking out here, and it just makes me a little bit crazier than I normally am.
It is a very dangerous thing to do.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Now, as much as this looks a little bit different than the sauce that's on the bottom, because some of the bits of mustard kind of stay on it, it doesn't taste a lot different. So how much would you like, Mama?
A little more than that.
Okay. And then we'll get our plate of sausages out.
That looks just perfect.
Now, cauliflower is not something that you would typically think of to have with brunch, but it's delicious, and there isn't a reason in the world that you can't.
Delicious and healthy.
Keto friendly. Okay, so now these could be heated up or not, but one way or the other. So those are 2 beautiful brunch plates that we get to enjoy together once we say goodbye to you guys. But for right now, we're just going to let you look at them and drool. So you tried the TSL organic breakfast sausage mix, and what did you think of it?
I love it. It's
Not too spicy, not too salty?
definitely not too salty. It has a little bit more spice than I would put in it just for me, but I liked it though.
Okay. So now you know, if you're looking at buying the TSL Organic Spice Blend for breakfast sausages, it does have a little bit of a kick, and that is very much intentional. So you might want to, hey Cindy, hi Del, and you know what? I've been so busy looking at all the stuff that we're doing that I was not even paying attention to the chat today. Okay, so we are going to go and enjoy our brunch, and again, we can heat all of this up a little bit if we wanted to, either in a pan or in the microwave, but I think if we get off here right about now, we're not going to have to worry about it. So if you are just joining us, if you're watching it live, or if you are watching the replay, I hope you all do your very best to live your best version of this shining life. That's what we're going to do starting today by having a keto brunch. And then we're going to have a little bit of an adventure. We're going to go and meet some baby goats and some mini horses. And if you're in central Alberta, you're going to want to be paying attention to the farmers markets, because they are going to be out and about at petting zoos for people to come and meet. So very snuggly and very cute, and we're going to go and meet them as soon as we are done our breakfast. So thank you very much for being here today. I hope that you have an amazing Sunday, and until I see you on Friday, because we're going to do a bit of a hiatus for Wednesdays for the summer with all the markets that I have to do, but I will see you on Friday at noon, and we will do something delicious again.